Okay, welcome to the first of this channel, the first reading lesson that we will be doing. So this is a lesson that will take longer than a normal reading as if we were doing it in under exam conditions. So under exam conditions, I would say for a part, the first reading of an IELTS exam, I would say try to complete it within no more than 18 minutes, because then you would have a little bit more time to focus on the other readings, the more difficult readings coming up. Um, but we're going to be taking a little bit longer than this because it's a reading lesson, as I've said. And so we'll be looking at new vocabulary that's important to answer the question. Any vocabulary that's not important to answer the question, you are welcome to pause the video and look those words up yourself. But we're focusing on how to complete this reading in terms of the questions only. We're not trying to understand everything. And that's really how you should be approaching all situations where your first language is not English. Okay, so we can see here that the first thing we could possibly do is to look at any pictures. Usually part one has a picture or a diagram, but in this case you can see there is no picture here. So this is book number 16, test number 1, the first reading from it. No pictures. All we see is the title, Why We Need to Protect Polar Bears. Okay, and so from that I have to start generating an idea in my mind. What is this going to be about? And it's quite helpful. We've got the keywords here. Why, so it's going to give us reasons. To do what? To protect. And what? Protect polar bears. And you should know what those are. Those are the largest bear species in the world. They live up in the northern parts of Canada and Norway and Sweden and Russia, and in very cold places. Okay, and of course Greenland. Okay, and what do we do next? So we've got an idea in our head. Okay, this is going to be a text about reasons for protecting polar bears, and maybe very quickly I might start thinking, well, what are some of the reasons before I start reading? Well, because they're a unique species. There's no other species like it. They are important to the ecology of the whole ecosystem. So if they get removed, then they will not be able to fulfill their role in the um, ecosystem, what they're there to do. Okay. All right. Third reason might be what was the third reason? I mean, obviously, because we need to protect the environment. We need to protect animals. We are guardians of this earth, if you like to think of it that way, and we have the power to completely destroy, or have the power to protect, and that might be one of the reasons they come up with. Okay, now the next step I would do. So this would take in my mind 20 seconds. Just okay, what are they going to talk about? And then if we go down, I would recommend. Oh, sorry. Before we read the questions, we want to just check generally what whether we were generally correct about our predictions for what the title is about. So before I answer the questions, I'm going to quickly read the first paragraph. A well-structured text will provide a lot of information to help you to get a better idea of the questions in the first paragraph. That is why it's essential that you read the first paragraph before you go over to the questions, because it'll give you some ideas. Okay, so let's read it. Polar bears are becoming increasingly threatened by the effects of climate change. Yes, so the ice and the snow is melting, so they can't hunt as effectively. I know that from my world knowledge about polar bears, but their disappearance could have far-reaching consequences. Okay, so it's not just in their area, but it's going to be affecting us even outside of those cold places. They are uniquely adapted to the extreme conditions of the Arctic Circle, where temperatures can reach minus 40 degrees centigrade. Okay, so they are uniquely adapted. They are able, they've over time, they have used evolution to help them become comfortable to live in such crazy -40 degrees centigrade conditions. One reason for this is that they have up to 11 centimeters of fat underneath their skin. 11 centimeters, yeah, about that much. Humans with comparative levels of adipose tissue would be considered obese. Obese means extremely fat or overly fat, dangerously fat, and would likely suffer from diabetes and heart disease. Okay, yet the polar bear experiences no such consequences. Now we can start to guess what they're going to say, right? They're saying that these bears they're really fat, they're obese, um, and yet humans have all sorts of problems with themselves, their bodies, if they have the equivalent, yet polar bears are fine, in fact very healthy. So what do you think they're going to say? They're probably looking at what are the medical things we can learn from the polar bear. Okay, just from that I can get a better idea of the type of questions I'm going to be getting down below and have my mind ready to answer them. Okay, so let's have a look. They're true, false, not given. So those type of questions are always in the same order. So polar bears suffer from various health problems due to the buildup of fat. Okay, we know that straight away. That's going to be false, just from the first paragraph. Okay, we will of course double check, but I'm pretty sure. Study done compared. Okay, so the key word is compared. First researchers to compare the two, so brown bears and the polar bears. So he's compared different groups of polar bears. Okay, all right. So it wasn't just types of bears, but just groups of polar bears. Quite important to underline there. Polar bears are able to control their levels of bad cholesterol by genetics. They use genetics to control it. Female polar bears are able to survive for about 6 months without food. And that's female, right? So there's a key word there. They probably put that for a reason. So we need to be careful in case they're talking only about males. It was found that the bones of female polar bears were very weak when they came out of their dens in the spring. So the bones were weak. Again, we're talking about females only in the spring. So after hibernation, we'll put that up there. Hibernation is when the bear sleeps during the winter to conserve energy. And last one, number 7, the polar bear's mechanism for increasing bone density could also be used by people one day. Okay, I'm assuming this is the whole point of this research, is that whatever it's using to increase bone density in humans will use the same genetic thing and will copy it into humans. Okay, there is a second part of these questions, but what we're going to do now is try to answer these questions first. Remember to get the answers down. The easy stuff first. True or false, not given tends to be relatively easy. So get that first, get comfortable, and then we'll move on to the questions after this. Okay, so what's the next step? Well, the next step, now that we've underlined the keywords in the question, the next step is to look only at the first sentence of each paragraph and have just a general summary of what we are likely to be reading in that whole paragraph. Because as I said, a fully well-constructed text, the first paragraph will tell you what it's going to be about, and a well-constructed text, the first 1 or 2 sentences will tell you what the paragraph is about. Remember, one idea, one paragraph. So the same thing applies in well-constructed English texts. Okay, so we've got this 2014 study by Schilling. Oh, by the way, another thing I should be doing is very quickly, not only in the first 2 sentences or the first sentence, but also anytime I see it, I'm going to be putting an underline underneath anything that's capitalized like this. Okay, so we've got Louis here again. Okay, so I'm looking out for those as well, because that's often where the answer is hiding, in these capitalized words, places, names, acronyms. Low density, that's an acronym, LDL. Okay, anyway, let's go back to the first sentence and read it carefully. So a 2014 study by Xiping Louis Liu, sorry, and colleagues shed lights on this mystery. Okay, this mystery is referring back to why they don't have any consequences for being fat. Okay, they compared the genetic structure of polar bears with that of the closest relatives from a winter climate, the brown bears. Okay, so straight away they compared with the brown bears. Okay, I am going to say that could be something related to question number 2. Question number 1 we've done already. I'm not going to answer it yet because I'm focusing now on just reading through, but I put a number there, and I also said the this is just the comparison. So I'm putting my summary there. Comparison, compared. Okay, let's carry on. We'll come back to that. So anything that's underlined, bone tissue, that's all capitalized because it's the beginning of a sentence. So there's no numbers, there's no capitalized words, names, places. So we're just going to go straight into the first sentence. The genome of the polar bear may also provide solution for another condition, one that particularly affects older generation, osteoporosis. Now, I happen to know what that word means because os, and if you speak a Latin-based language, it should be very easy for you. It means bone, okay? So osteoporosis is the weakening of the bone, okay? And I know I don't need to go on to the second sentence. I know straight away that this paragraph is going to be about the bone weakening. So it's going to affect one of the questions. If I had 2 pages here, it would be much easier, and maybe I'll do that actually. Okay, finally, I've managed to split this PDF up into 2 parts. Okay, so now we can see the text and the questions on the left-hand side. So we said that's F. Number 1 is F from something that we already saw in the first paragraph here. And I thought that this probably relates to number 2, and I can see now that it probably also relates to number 3. So we'll put both of those there. And then this was osteoporosis. So this was about weak bones. Okay, so it might be we have missed out these ones here. So I don't want to go straight into thinking this is about 6 here. Is it possible that there's 3 and 4 already here? Now, bear in mind that there is more text coming here. So there is a small chance that the first part, true, false, not given, is only in the first page, and then the true, false, not given happens in the second page. That is possible as well. Don't forget. So don't assume that just because we're already at 6 and we're missing out on 3 and 4, 4 and 5. But this is why we're going to carry on reading straight through everything. Okay, so still this is this bone. So, oh, I forgot to put here, sorry. Comparison. And this is about weak bones. This paragraph, weak bones. Okay, let's have a look here. Anand Lennox and Alan Goodship, 2008. Anything else? Then we've got this hibernating. So we were talking about hibernation here in the spring. So hibernation. So that might be here already. So that's 6 possibly down here. Okay, so they found an explanation for this paradox. So we need to, for when these sort of things happen, we need to go back up one sentence. And so this, despite this, their bones remain strong and dense. A problem with this, I have to go back one more. This process, oh my goodness, we have to go backwards. Okay, so this happened, we have to go all the way from here to understand this basic thing here. Unfortunately, that's how it works, right? So once autumn comes around, these females will dig maternity dens in the snow and will remain there throughout the winter. Maternity, it means to help grow their cubs, their babies. Both before and after the birth of their cubs. This process results in about 6 months of fasting. Fasting means you don't eat, where the female bears have to keep themselves and their cubs alive, depleting their own calcium. We should know that that's that stuff that keeps bones strong and healthy, and calorie reserves. Despite this, their bones remain strong and dense. Straight away, I can see that the answer is false. Becomes very weak, strong, and dense. So that is F here, and that's related to number 6. So we were right. So we're looking for numbers 4 and 5 here as well somewhere. So we'll come back to that. But as I said, we're carrying on to the next paragraph. Oh yes, found an explanation for this paradox. Now, this is not giving us information. So I need to read the next sentence as well. They discovered that pregnant bears were able to increase their density of their bones before they started to build their dens. Okay, so that gives us some information. And we've got here number 7. This mechanism, the bear's mechanism, could be used by people one day. So they're actually talking. So I'm pretty sure this is number 7 here already. Okay. Now, do we carry on? Do we carry on reading? No. If I'm pretty sure that I've completed that the questions are going to be hiding inside this for the first part of the reading, then don't carry on yet. Always make sure you get the marks, get the grades, get them. It's going to be a psychological benefit when you know, I know that answer and I've given the answer and I'm getting points as I go. So don't carry on yet. Let's focus on these ones here. So the study done by Lewin compared different groups of polar bears. That is not true, because we see that they compare the genetic structure of polar bears with, to compare with. These are two words that come together. So I'm looking for compare and with. The closest relatives, the ones that are brown bears, they're in warmer climates. So that is false. They were the first researchers to compare polar bears and brown bears genetically. First researchers. Now we have to have a look at this. I have a feeling this is a trick question. Nowhere that it's, I'm very quickly reading through here and I see nowhere that it says they were the first. It would be weird for them to be the first. I mean, it's 2014. Surely other people have been looking at this. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong paragraph. Sorry. No. So this is a trick question, and so it's not given. They may have been. There's a possibility that they were, but it's not written here. So this is an NG, a not given answer. Polar bears are able to control their levels of bad cholesterol by genetic means. So the genome, genetic, the genetic system, I think, is the genome. The genome of the polar bear provides solution for another condition, one that particularly affects our older generation: osteoporosis. Bad cholesterol. Control their bad cholesterol. Okay, this is talking about weak bones, so we must find. Ah, there it is. Oh, and I forgot to underline this. Often words that are in inverted commas are also the types of things you should be underlining. So there it is. Found that polar bears had a gene, there it is, gene known as APOB, which produces levels of low density lipoproteins, a form of bad cholesterol. Able to control their levels of bad cholesterol. In humans, mutations of this gene are associated with increased risk of heart disease. Mutations of this gene. Polar bears may therefore be an important study to understand human heart disease in humans. All right, so Lewis found polar bears had a gene known as this, which produces levels of low density, a type of bad or a form of bad cholesterol. Able to control by genetic means. Can they control it? It reduces. I was reading the word produces. Yeah, very dangerous. So this had a gene that reduces, controls the level. Yeah, reduce control. It can control it. So that's true. Okay. We can see that we're probably going to find question 5 here. Female polar bear is able to survive for about 6 months without food. I think we saw that here. 6 months of fasting without food fasting. So that's true. Now we said 6 and 7 is here. By the way, I often put, just in case when I'm double checking, maybe I've got some time at the end of the exam, I always put where I think the answer is hiding. So it's worth, even if you're absolutely sure you're right, you might see something later on. You're like, actually, and I want to be able to find that quickly. Okay. They were very weak. We've already done that one. It's false, right? So the bear's mechanism for controlling bone density could be used by people, by humans one day. So we're looking here somewhere. Hibernating brown bears do not have this capacity and must therefore result to major bone reformation in the following spring. If the mechanism, here you go, if the mechanism of bone remodeling in polar bears can be understood, many bedridden and ridden, I'm not sure where the word ride could be from the old word for ride. So you sit in bed. It's a bit sad, but there's many people that cannot get up because they've got very, very weak bones. Many bedridden humans, even astronauts, could potentially benefit. So we've got the word humans, we've got people. So if it can be understood, then it can help people. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Now we need to, before we carry on reading, we need to look at these questions here. Okay, this is fill in one word only. Very important to read the rubric here. Only one word. So reasons why polar bears should be protected. Exactly what we've got as the title for this text. People think of bears as unintelligent. Okay, we can clearly see that that's not being mentioned before, so we must be going on to the next something here, but we're not going to read it yet. We're going to focus on this. So people think of bears as unintelligent and something. It's going to be a negative thing because unintelligent is negative, and it's not but, it's and. So it's another negative thing we're looking for. However, this is not correct. For example, in Tenoi Zoo, a bear has been seen using a branch as a... Now, I'm pretty sure they're going to use the word tool here. So tool use, the use of tools by animals, is often a sign of intelligence. Orangutans, chimpanzees, bonobos, and gorillas use tools. So it shows, okay, that's an intelligent. Dolphins use tools. Octopuses use tools. I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to say here. And these are like sticks or rocks, things to break open nuts. That's not just using their hands or feet or legs or whatever. This allowed him to knock down some. Okay, and there's going to be some food, some sort of food we can guess here. A wild polar bear worked out a method of reaching a platform. Where platform? Okay, so this is often hunters will have a platform to be higher than the forest floor. Or there might be some sort of surveillance equipment checking on polar bears, so camera equipment. So we're looking for something that was located. What would be located on a platform? You can guess. It could be equipment, and it could be food. Could even be a hide. A hide is a place where people will, hunters will stay. Polar bears have displayed behavior such as conscious manipulation of objects and similar activity to conscious, so on purpose, manipulation from the word mani, which is hand. So manipulate means to move or change something. And I'll put that up here. So conscious manipulation of something, objects, and activities similar to, now I've mentioned the great apes, the big monkeys is another way to say it, I guess, but the great apes, bonobos, chimpanzees, orangutans. So I'm going to put here great apes. this because I am feeling that's probably what it's going to be about. Bears may also display emotions. For example, they may make movements suggesting something if disappointed when hunting. Movements. So we've got emotions. Disappointed. So suggesting frustration. We're looking for a noun here. Okay. They may form relationships with other species. Okay, interesting. All right, now we're ready to read. Remember, only the first paragraph because we're looking for where the answers might be hiding. Okay, so the medical benefits of the polar bear for humanity certainly have their importance in our conservation efforts, but these should not be the only factors taken into consideration. So medical benefits, important medical benefits, but not the only not be the only factors. So yes, it's going to help us as humans medically, but of course we need to think of other things. Why else should we preserve polar bears or look after them, conserve them? So I'm feeling there's the emotions. So we're talking about elephants, primates is another way to say the great apes. So great apes, as I've mentioned, the most famous probably is the gorilla. Here we've got Osaka, Gogo. Okay, so important words there. So I'm feeling that we're probably going to get 8 here. And as you can see, we've got 10, 9, and 10. All of that sitting somewhere. Oh, sorry. Should have moved it down a little bit. Somewhere in that 9 and probably 10 is sitting there. A wild bear. Okay, carry on here. In other studies, such as one by Allison Ames in 2008, polar bears showed deliberate and focused manipulation. We've seen this word before. Deliberate and focused. Deliberate, conscious manipulation. So this is 12. Okay, so we've got probably 11 is sitting here somewhere. A wild polar bear. There it is. Okay. And let's go to this one here. As for emotions, while the evidence is once again anecdotal, let's add that word there. Many bears have been seen to hit out at ice and snow, seeming of frustration. We were right. And they make movements suggesting frustration. So that is the correct word here, to be angry with yourself. When they've just missed out on a kill, when they're disappointed when hunting. Okay, and the rest is not important because it may be an interesting article, but obviously we're trying to complete an exam here. Okay, so let's have a look quickly at this. We should be able to find the missing words. So they think of them as we tend to want to protect animals we think are intelligent, such as elephants and primates. Bears seem to be perceived as stupid and in some cases violent. So there's that negative word, violent. Okay, here we've got this Tennoizu in Osaka. He was using a branch as a tool. Now let's see if we can find this word tool. There it is. So I was right with that one as well. Okay, tool stays the same. This allowed him to knock down some sort of food, piece of meat. Here we go. Some meat that was hanging on a branch out of his reach. So his arm wasn't always, arm wasn't high enough, long enough. So he used the stick as a tool to knock down the meat, which is evidence of intelligence. A wild polar bear worked out a method of reaching a platform where something was located. So we've got this wild one here. Has been witnessed, although not as obviously as Gogo. Okay, so not as easily seen, not as clear as Gogo, but they have been seen. A calculated move by a male bear involved running and jumping onto barrels. Barrel is a piece of wood to hold liquids. I'll put that up there. To get to a photographer Okay, so there's a guy with equipment standing on the platform 4 meters up. Okay, so where a photographer was located. Poor guy, he must have been very scared. Polar bears have, okay, so we're on number 12 here. So we've got this keyword here, similar to manipulation. Okay, so she observed bears putting objects into piles and knocking them over to be a game. An act objects that are similar to similar to a. All right, that's not right, of course. So similar to a game. Appeared to be a game, yes. All right, so game. And that's it. Yeah, I mean, that's the end of part one, right? You would go straight into part two. You wouldn't even waste time and follow those same steps. So step number one, look at any images. If there's no images or graphs, then look at the title. Try to imagine what you're going to be reading based on those things that you see, either the image or the title. Then read the first paragraph. Make sure you understand that first paragraph to check if you are right about what you were thinking. Go and check your questions. Underline the keywords in your questions. If there's two parts to the questions, focus only on the first part. Get those done. Go back up to your text. Only look at the first and second sentence. If the word this appears, you do need to go back up to maybe the previous paragraph. If this appears again, as you saw here, you have to go even higher up to the previous sentence until there's no more this left, because this refers to something previously. And if they use the word this, you have to go backwards until you've got the whole idea. Once you've done the first part and you've ticked it off, remember these type of texts, usually part one, the order is exactly the same as the questions. You don't have to go around looking for things. That's usually the case in part one of this exam. Once you've done part one of the part one, then go on to the second part of the questions. Those will come. You don't need to look any higher than question. Here we've got question number 8 as violent. So question number 7 is in the previous page. You don't need to look at the previous page to find the information for questions 8 to 13 in this case. It was in the second part of the text. Okay, I hope that's useful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video.